Just like you maybe hadn't heard about the year of St. Joseph, maybe you hadn't heard that the Nebraska football team isn't going to play a postseason game. I mean, that's news, isn't it? For what little I understand, they could. And the coach decided to let it up to the players to decide whether they wanted to or not. Now, these players, they've been in Lincoln since this summer, locked down, so they wouldn't get COVID and have the season canceled like from other teams. And they've been working real hard. And actually, this last game, it looked like maybe they knew what they were doing, and they were starting to play better, so you'd think they'd want to play another game because they love winning. And yet, they chose, the coach said, "You decide." And the players said, "No, we don't want to play." Now, why in the world would that be the case when they just love football so much? One word will tell you why they chose not to play. Family. They hadn't seen their families for 6 months. And to them, being able to go home and be with their families during this Christmas season and the break time was more important than football. Now, to a lot of Nebraska fans, family is not more important than football. But it was to these players. Family. Family is at the root of who we are as human beings. You know, for Thanksgiving and now for Christmas, the CDC was saying, we urge you not to travel, not to have big family gatherings for fear of spreading COVID. It's not so much a problem in the Midwest, boy, California. And yet millions and millions and millions of people have traveled. Because for them, family was more important than any kind of risk that they could take. They just had to be with their families. Family is at the very foundation of a human being. And family is the very foundation of society. Just imagine a society that doesn't have family. What would that be like? What would be missing if all you had was individuals and you didn't have people bonded together as family? Well, you wouldn't have compassion and love and mercy and sacrifice. What you would have, at least the dominating quality, because every one of us is affected by original sin, you would have selfishness. Now, granted, families, there's no perfect family. Just because you got a family, you don't have perfection. You got problems. It's part of humanity. It's part of family. It's part of the struggling growth of individuals within family. It was part of the Holy Family. Start with the problems they had, Jesus being born in Bethlehem and having to chase off to Egypt to escape Herod. And then today's gospel, a sword of sorrow will pierce Mary's heart. No, there's no such thing as perfection. And yet, family is the school of learning to be selfless instead of selfish. It just popped into my head, this example I've seen where people that want to turn ragged rocks into gems, you put them all together and then tumble them so they bounce up against each other, and it knocks off the sharp edges. And after a while, they get shined up to be pretty beautiful. That's what family can do. But without family, what would you have? Well, years ago, I saw this movie called Logan's Run. It was in the 70s. And it was about a society which wasn't based on families. It was kind of a hedonistic society. You were allowed, it's all about what you can get for yourself. And you were only allowed to live to be 30. And then at 30, you had to turn yourself in to be eliminated. Because this society didn't want problems with old people and with sickness and disease and problems. Just get rid of all these people when they reach that age, and then you'll have that perfect society. And Logan, when he turned 30, he ran and tried to escape execution. Wow, what kind of society would that be? That'd be pretty scary. I think Hitler tried to do that, didn't he? Hitler wanted to form this pure race of people. So the first thing you have to do is you have to get rid of soldiers from World War I that are amputees, because they're worthless eaters. They're not going to produce for this nation. Then you get rid of all the old people in the nursing homes, because they're not productive either. Then you get rid of all the people that have disabilities or mental illness. Clean out all those institutions, because they're not helpful, at least for the military machine. He wanted young, strong people. The more babies, the better. More soldiers. Then get rid of the Jews, too. What kind of society would we have without the strong foundation of family? Now, during lockdown, it's pretty boring for somebody that's old like me. By the way, talking about old people and getting rid of them, I talked to people in nursing homes. I called up Father Weezy, called up Father Prenny. Hey, how you doing? Well, we're just prisoners. We're not even allowed out of our room. We're not even allowed to see anybody. Nobody can come into the building. Imagine being cut off from family and loved ones. I mean, this is how important family is. I mean, it just destroys a person. So anyway, during lockdown, I was, you got to keep busy. I don't want to watch TV. Certainly don't want to watch the news. So there was this game on my iPad I had put on a long, long time ago, but never played. I thought, oh, let me give it a try. And it was called the Bridge Constructor. And you have this river or a chasm, and you're supposed to build a bridge over it. I'm not an engineer. I need Deacon Mike Kanza to help me here. I think I'm going to challenge him with one of these things. So you got these materials and you try to build it in such a way, you use lots of triangles, I think, and then when you finish, you hit the go button to see what'll happen, and 90% of the time it just collapses into the river. Not very strong. And it got me thinking, what are the qualities that are needed for a strong family? What are the building blocks that make for strong family life, which means ending being strong individuals? Well, here's some qualities. You'd have to have sacrifice. Huge in a family. I mean, imagine if you had a family and a whole bunch of members of the family were selfish. What would that do? Well, it would be like that bridge collapsing. There would be no supports. And then, of course, love, which I see as the flip side of a lot of sacrifice. And forgiveness and patience, because we're not human, we're imperfect, sinful human beings. There's always going to be problems where you're going to have to say, I'm sorry. And then, faith and prayer. Imagine a family that's built on the solid foundation of faith-filled people. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am. Jesus is the glue for family bonds. That old line, the family that prays together stays together. Yeah. Why not? Sure. And then, of course, once this pandemic is over with, coming together, celebrating the Eucharist. So think about it. Think about your own family, how you grew up, in the family you're in now. What were the good qualities, the strength qualities that you had, and what were some of the things you wish you had? This week, I've just rattled off 3 or 4 things. This week, think for yourself. What would be the strong building blocks for a family that I'd want? Rather than playing bridge constructor, play family constructor. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.